Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 6th Lean Business Ireland webinar dealing with COVID-19. It is a difficult time for everybody, for every company in Ireland, and we are just coming together as a group every couple of weeks, to talk about it. Just some housekeeping before we kick off. You have come into the room muted. I would ask that you remain muted for the time being. And if you have any questions, please use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions. They will go straight to the moderator who will be able to put them to the panelists. In the meantime, I would ask as well that you would go to leanbusinessireland.ie. You will find on Lean Business Ireland some events that are coming up, but you can also join your local regional network in a link on the top right-hand side of the screen. This will give you an insight into what's coming up in the future. But for right now, I'm going to hand you over to Máiréad, Donnell, the Operations Director of Polar IceTech and Chairperson of the Southwest Lean Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Senan, and thanks very much. My name is Máiréad Donnell, and I am the Chairperson of the Southwest Lean Forum. We're part of a larger national committee called Lean Business Ireland, and our function is to promote learning and education within the lean sector. Tonight we have two great businessmen with us. Thank you very much for being with us, Mick and Stephen. Mick Guinee is the CEO of EI Electronics, and Stephen Hartnett is the owner and managing director of Profix in Cork. So Stephen, we're going to go to you first, if that's okay with you. And just want to get an idea, Stephen, of what is it that you do and how do you do it?
Okay, we're a property maintenance company and we're focused on third level education facilities and healthcare. And basically we're property damage solutions and repairs, and that's it. That's what we do.
Okay. And do you have many on your team then, Stephen?
It fluctuates anywhere between, like, boots on the ground every day, between 10 to 15.
Okay. And what type of property maintenance are you doing then? You were saying for the healthcare. Do you mean hospitals?
Yes. And universities.
And universities.
Yeah. So basically, we're just problem solvers. They ring us with a problem. Doesn't matter really what it is. We come up with a solution and solve it.
Great. And I suppose, Stephen, were you affected by COVID-19 in terms of, did you have to shut down? Did you have to let people off, or did your work ramp up then?
No, our work ramped up because we're working in the hospitals. So yeah, we actually ramped up and we've been working right through, so we haven't stopped. So there's been no, like, we haven't had to stop and start. We've just worked right through, and yeah, it has ramped up.
Okay, and Stephen, because you're considered a small company, then was it challenging initially to be able to, I suppose, appreciate what was going on and then respond accordingly?
No, it probably should have been, but because we've been on the lean journey for about 4 years, we were on the first Leo program, so we're on the lean journey now.
I've just had Stephen's screen freeze on me there now. I'm not sure if it has frozen on anyone else, but we just give him a moment. We're living in a new virtual world, so we can often have technological issues. So thanks, Paul. I see that it's frozen for you too, so I'm not out on my own with that. You know, we might give Stephen a little bit of time there to come back. Mick, would it be okay if we jump straight to you then, and maybe you could tell us about EI Electronics. You're the CEO of EI Electronics, and you're in a different space then to Profix and to Stephen, because you're quite a large company, isn't that correct? I can't hear.
Hi, Máiréad, can you hear me again?
I can.
Okay.
I can, and I couldn't hear Mick. So listen, no.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, well, Stephen, we had just jumped to Mick, if that's all right, and I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Mick, can you tell us about EI Electronics, who you are and the size of the company and what you do?
EI was set up in 1963 by General Electric, US company, and was closing in 1988. I was the MD, and I led a management buyout. So since 1988, it's an Irish company. I'm chairman and the CEO of it. We manufacture fire and gas detection products. Every smoke alarm you have in your home or carbon monoxide alarm would undoubtedly come from EI. We've co-located here in Shannon. We've got manufacturing, R&D, marketing and administration. And then we've got 5 overseas subsidiaries in UK, Germany, France, Poland and the USA. Manufacturing people, we fear about 550 people on this site, working over 3 shifts, 5 days a week. And then we have another 200 people between R&D and marketing. And so in total, on this site, we have about 750 people. Our turnover would be about $250 million or euros. So we're quite a big company, and so COVID, gave us a particular challenge in that we're deemed to be an essential company because we manufacture products for the social care and social housing sector, and the NHS would be one of our products, one of our customers, and the HSE would be one of our customers. So we were deemed essential from the beginning, and we continued to manufacture up to the 27th of March. That's when the Taoiseach announced a lockdown. We had been manufacturing for the 2 to 3 weeks before that. It was quite nervous. People were quite nervous, and there was a bit of tension. So when the Taoiseach announced the lockdown, I took advantage of that to say, look, we'll even though we're deemed essential, we'll shut down for the 2 weeks. We reckon we had problems in physical spacing, and we needed to get them right. So we shut down for the 2 weeks, and then it was extended for another week, and we took that as well. So in total, we were shut down for 4 weeks, including we took 1 week's holiday. But for those 4 weeks, we had our maintenance people tackling the factory and making it, getting the physical distancing right. We also installed temperature sensitive cameras on all entrances. And the senior management team, led by myself, we essentially met every morning to look at what needs to be done. And so over those 3 weeks, we got the factory into good shape. We shut down for the 4 weeks. Everybody got paid. We didn't go into any scheme. We paid the people. And I think that went down well. Then when we brought the people back then on a phased basis. Incidentally, we communicated with the people when they were out through SMS to their iPhone and let them know what was going on and when they could expect to get back. We took back 50% of the population on the 20th of April, and the second half of people came back on the 27th of April, and that was to test out to see were we okay. And then once that went okay, we came back 100% on the 5th of May. And we've been at 100% production since then. Everybody feels very safe. Especially, I think the temperature sensitive cameras on the doors gives everybody the sense that, look, this is a very controlled environment. Once we're in, there's nobody getting past the door that's anyway symptomatic or anything like that. And of course, we've the place covered with sanitizers and instructions and the wash hands and so on and so forth. A lot of communication was the key as well. We communicate through newsletters internally, as I said, through SMS. We also have LCD screens throughout the factory that we put up, whatever the situation was. And the supervisors then would meet with their production teams in small numbers to go over whatever needed to be communicated in that day. So we're happy with the decisions we made in shutting down for the few weeks, and we're happy now that we're back in a very controlled and safe environment, and people feel protected. I suppose from the beginning, our objective was, number one, the health and safety of our employees. We wanted to maintain 100% of the jobs and we wanted to maintain continuity of supply to our key customers. And we've managed to do all that. There were no jobs have been lost. And we've had no outbreak of corona at all. We did lose some days through people being partners getting affected and so on, but there was no case, no positive case in the factory. So so far so good. And the only thing, the big impact on our business has been on sales, because our main markets are UK, Germany, Netherlands, and they've all been in lockdown effectively for weeks, and they're just coming back out now. But because of the sector we supply, social housing, and that, we believe that our business is not gone away, it's just gone asleep. And once it reawakens, we're still estimating we're going to do our targets for the year. And even already we're getting those indications that the sales are beginning to come back. And we're expecting very strong sales in the last half of the year. And right now we're running 100%. We're building it out of stock, and that's on the basis of effectively, to use the analogy of smoothing the curve, because we're expecting a surge in the last 2 quarters, and we wanted to smooth out the whole thing. So that's our story.
That's really commendable, you know, Mick, and you've obviously worked incredibly hard to have no cases and to be able to contain that is really commendable, because it takes a lot of people to get systems and processes in place very, very quickly. It takes a lot of buy-in. So you know, you have to be commended that. In terms of your communal facilities, such as, you know, toilets or canteens or various things like that, how did you manage that with 700 people?
Yeah, the canteen presented the biggest problem, in that we had tables to take 4 people at a table. But what we did, we've used an awful lot of Perspex in the factory over those 3 weeks as well. So in the canteen, we split the tables into 4 sections. They're effectively little phone boxes. They're not very sociable, but everybody is physically distanced, and that's worked well from the point of view that we're keeping to the COVID rules and so on. Not very great from a social point of view. In the factory, then, we use a lot of Perspex as well to divide off the people in the production cells, so that they all have about 2 meters space that they move up and down between the Perspex divisions. Toilets didn't do anything special except to increase the cleaning and so on and so forth.
Okay. And Mick,
smoking area presented a difficulty as well. Well, not a difficulty, but we happen to have about 25% of our workforce seems to be smokers, and the smoking areas were sort of attached to the factory, and they weren't socially spaced. So we killed that, and we've pushed smoking off the campus. But that's not as drastic as it sounds. People just have to walk maybe about 100 meters to go offsite. And at the moment, we're actually planning where we're actually going to, in the next 3 weeks, building a new external smoking area that will be, everybody will be able to socially space within that. And that's kept the smokers very, very happy. They were a bit agitated when we shut down the smoking rooms. But overall, there's no tension. That's the thing I'm most happy with, that people are very happy coming to work, and there's, people feel very safe in the controlled environment.
And Mick, can I ask you, was there any reluctance of people in getting their temperature checked at the start when they start to come back?
No, we communicated that through SMS that we would be putting in the cameras. So when they came back, they went through it. You'll be glad to know we haven't picked up any high temperature in that time. But it hasn't come up for an issue at all. I think people are very accepting of that steps had to be taken to prevent this virus, and there's been nobody. The images are recorded for 2 weeks. If there is any high temperature, our health and safety and HR person gets an email immediately, together with a photograph in high definition, and also a temperature, with the temperature across the forehead. And we get that immediately, so we're able to isolate that person if it ever did happen, but it didn't happen. We had one situation where the sun deflected off a glass pane onto the camera, and we got a reading one morning. We got a big fright of somebody reading about 50 degrees, and that was the only situation we had like that. We're also, because we have so many people in that, and health and safety has always been a big thing with us. We have in-house, we have our own health center, and we have an occupational nurse who's there every day, and we have a GP that drops in 3 mornings a week to us. And we've used that health center to, if anybody felt anyway symptomatic, we'd bring them down there, and the nurse would take a temperature and so on. So overall, as I say, people are happy with the environment, and they feel safe, and it's a very controlled environment.
And Mick, you're 100% manufacturing in Shannon, so I would assume that there's quite a level of PPE that was required before even COVID happened for the work that your teams do. What were those levels of PPE? What were they wearing, and how has that differed in terms of the current PPE requirements that you have for staff on site, or do you have?
We don't. We don't have any PPE, and we haven't introduced any PPE. We considered masks when that was being, but overall we decided not. We decided to go with the instructions from government that wasn't recommended. And I can see that it would be more danger than what it would be worth, because trying to get 700 people to be very disciplined and taking masks on and off would be a problem. In the offices, say in reception, we've a Perspex guard in front of the person on reception. The same would be in the high volume areas like the HR office and so on. So there's no, that's the only PPE. It's Perspex guards, and that's it.
Okay, you mentioned the protocols there. Were there any of the protocols or the recommendations by the government that were challenging for you and your team to implement?
No, by the time that came out, we were back in action, and we did look through the document, and we were happy that we were conforming in every way.
Okay.
I think there was one area maybe on tracing, contact tracing, that we stepped up on. So we now have each supervisor keeps a record of who's in each production cell every day. So if there was a case and the HSA came in and said, who was that person working with last Tuesday week, we'll be able to trace back on that and who was in that production cell.
Has your lean toolkit been of an advantage to you at this time in crisis? Because I know you're a very big advocate of lean, and you have quite a significant history in terms of implementing lean. Has it been an advantage in responding to COVID-19? Yes,
it was, or is. Basically, the way the factory is organized, we have 2 big production automated areas in electronic surface mount and injection molding. And then they serve about 70 Kaizen cells. Each of those cells would have 5 or 6 people in them in a straight line. And no more, so that, and they're in a moving operation, that they're not stationary. So it allowed us to take each of those positions and put the Perspex guard up on them, and it's fine. One challenge we did, we had some of the cells were back to back, and we didn't like that people could be within a 2 meter space back to back. So during the 3 weeks that we were shut down, we moved all those cells so that every cell was working in the same direction, and that's worked out fine. But yeah, Kaizen or lean did facilitate us working right through that period.
And were you able to rely on your extended network in Shannon there, or even your extended business network, to understand what they were doing, so in order to maximize what you had planned to do?
Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce organised sessions online, and a lot of us joined those sessions, and we were able to talk to the other people, the other businesses, and see what they were doing and what challenges they had. And I think we all learned off each other and how to take that.
Okay.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know you're a very significant employer, and you're incredibly well thought of in Shannon. So thank you for your continued contribution to what you do for not only the business community, but I suppose the local community down there as well. Mick, thank you so much for your time here. I'm going to jump to Stephen as questions might come in. Mick, I might jump back to you in a while if that's okay. If questions come in that might be more relevant to yourself or to Stephen, maybe we'll have a bit of an open discussion there in a while.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mick, much appreciated. Stephen, you're back with us.
Hi, Máiréad, yeah, back.
No worries, no, not at all. You know, it's a new virtual world we're living in, so we need to be a little bit more patient when it comes to technical glitches. Stephen, you're a proud Corkman anyway, and by all accounts, you're a great businessman, and you're doing great work. We've had a bit of a chat earlier on today, and as a small community, I think, as a small business, I think it's important that, you know, that the voice of how lean is impacting small businesses in a very positive way to not only react and respond to COVID-19, but to ensure that there's positivity afterwards is very important. You're a big advocate of lean. You were beginning to tell us that you were on the first lean program 4 years ago, and you're about to tell us about the impact that has had on you.
Yeah, so I did the first Leo. I didn't really know anything about lean until then. Okay, so I did the Leo program, and then that was 4 years ago, and since then we've just been taking little bite-sized chunks out of the business to organize it. And we tried other, I suppose, ways of trying to improve the business before that. Nothing was as successful as the lean, like that journey that we took. So I suppose when we were classed as well as essential services, right? So we spiked, we got very busy, and it showed that really we did it with ease, because we had introduced so much like little apps and stuff like that into the business. Like we had a communication app that we introduced about 2 years ago, and I mean, we were using it, but by God, we used it then, you know, over the COVID, we were using it, constantly using it. So by having things like that in place before this, we were really in a good place to handle, you know, the spike in work. And that showed in the team as well. There wasn't really any people weren't being overworked, you know, we were able to kind of schedule. It just really shone like.
And Stephen, I suppose you know, it sounds amazing to be able to develop apps that you're able to draw the, you know, facilities for staff forward, you know, in terms of communications. But I suppose app building can be perceived to be this very large task to bring on for such a small company. How did you get around that?
Well, we work with John Shanahan, okay, from BPI Lean, and that's who I've had my journey with over the last 4 years. So I'm not actually a tech guy myself, you know, that's not who I am. I'm from a building background. So I can come with I kind of know the end result that I want, and then I can go to my lean consultant, and between us then we kind of can develop something.
And how else have you responded in terms of being on site, for example, where you're working in hospitals, and, you know, the sensitivity of a hospital environment, you know, tripled if not quadrupled. It was always a very sensitive environment. How did you and your team respond to that when the time came?
Okay, one of the issues that we have to say is, if we're going into a hospital, what are we doing? Okay, we're going into our client, okay, and we find, like, I think it's our responsibility to do what we can to protect our client. So we purchased an app essentially that is it's a self-assessment app that the workers fill in every morning, and then we got another one that was close contact app. So every morning they did the self-assessment app. That's temperature as well in that. And then every evening they did a close contact app. So I kind of explain how it works, right? Every morning they get up, they take their temperature, they open up the app, they log the temperature, and they answer a few questions, you know, how are you feeling today, that kind of question, and then they just submit. There's not a whole load of buttons, okay, to press. It's just 5 questions and you're in. And then in the evening, we pre-populated, like the app is actually pre-populated with names of people that we regularly meet. So we'd have our clients' names and stuff in there. So then you, in the evening, you press the names of the people that you've met that day, and then there's a field as well, a blank field, where you can put in names of people that you didn't expect to meet and you did meet. So what we're doing here is we're protecting our client. So if there was an incident of COVID, then in our company, we're able to, in a split second, see who they were in contact with over the previous 2 weeks. And for ourselves, it's that's including our own staff and outside our own staff. So for our client to know that that was going on was massive for our business, because we were like, it showed that, number one, we care, and we care about the client, and we didn't really wait until we didn't wait for the government to kind of tell us what to do as such. We were helping the frontline, we're supporting frontline workers. We had to act ourselves, So we purchased those apps. We didn't develop them, we purchased them.
And Stephen, it's incredibly forward thinking of you. You have to be commended for that. Did you have any resistance in terms of staff coming on board with having to fill out these apps in the morning and in the afternoon, I suppose, adding to their work throughout the day?
No, and I think the reason for that is we got the apps custom made. Okay, so sorry, that was a different. Sorry, no, the ones for the COVID and stuff, we bought them. No, they're very easy to operate. It's just a few touches of a button, and we also then brought in an incentive. So at the end of the week, everyone fills in if everyone fills in their close contact app and their self-assessment app in the morning, we brought in an incentive to, just to say thanks.
Stephen, I can't say I know a whole lot about ATEX sites and what considers an ATEX or not an ATEX. Are there ATEX sites that you work on? And if so, can you do this type of digital reporting effectively from an ATEX site? An
ATEX site, Máiréad, I'm not familiar with that.
I'd say a site where it can be explosive if you use some type of digital format. But it was just a question that had come in from one of our audience there, and I suppose the question is probably more in terms of how can we be agile enough to ensure that the systems we're bringing in place are working in everybody's work environment, because the work environments tend to be very different for lots of different people, and for someone like you, like a hospital site is very different to a third level education site.
Okay, well, an ATEX site, you wouldn't be bringing your phone in anyway. So, I mean, basically, it goes back to the original rules. Are you allowed to bring your phone in to that environment? Yes. Well, then your app is on the phone. So if you're not allowed to bring in your phone, you're not bringing the app in. So that kind of.
Okay. Can you talk to me about the third level educations and what and because you have a very different environment there. What type of work are you doing there, Stephen?
Again, it's the background is property maintenance, okay, but we're kind of contacted to solve any problem that's coming up. It can be like we're fitting. We're doing a lot of screening off at the moment for the COVID, for the staff and stuff where we're working. So the third level, they're only opening back up now. Okay, so that's going to be a whole new set of challenges, but because we've worked right through this and we've worked in the hospital, I think we're well placed to help them even with advice on like what to do in your premises, so yeah, the third level is going to be like a dimmer switch going on. Everyone isn't going to be ran back in there straight away, but yeah, it's the hospital was probably a more challenging environment, I would say, over the last few weeks.
Yeah. In line with COVID then and your delivery on site, how have you got over the challenge of travelling to and from site if you have multiple people on a job?
Okay, so we just band 2 people in the van together, so everyone's just travelling alone. And then on site, we actually sourced this product in the UK. This might be handy for some of your listeners. It's a skipper barrier system. So what we're doing on site is we kind of graph out the site using the skipper barrier system, and like we have a collection point and a drop-off point. And for instance, if you have one of the service guys working in an area, we pull the barrier system works like if you inside in a bank, the way you see the kind of vinyl strips pulled out. So where there is a service guy working, we decide what area is he going to be working in. Then there's a skipper barrier goes behind him. Then there's the 2 meter social distancing, and then another one goes up. So when someone walks into that room, there's a physical barrier, of giving the social distancing.
Sure.
It's not really enough to just have stickers on the ground and stuff in our environment. You need to have a social barrier.
And
as well
sorry. No, work away, I'm sorry.
As well, to understand, like in the environments we're in, a nurse or a doctor can walk into the area. They're often not closed off. We can have students walking in, so because we don't have the privilege of closing off areas just because we want to, So that's where the skipper barrier system comes in, and that went down very well with our clients as well. They could see the sense of it. So.
And Stephen, were there any parts of the protocols that you found challenging to bring in?
I think not challenging. I just think to protect my own staff. If I have staff in an area, like I have a duty of care to them. So if I have one of my clients visiting that site, I need to I need to ensure that he is also self-assessing before he comes down, because there's no point us self-assessing and then him not self-assessing and he's actually the problem at the end, So what we did there was we got our link consultant to populate. We gave him all the names that we're going to come in contact with all our clients. Okay, so then we pre-populated. We put it into Evernote. Okay, so that's an app we use for communicating. And when one of our clients is visiting site, he's sent a self-assessment app through WhatsApp. Okay, and then he has to submit his responses before coming to site. Now, we didn't put temperature on that. We do temperature, but we didn't ask our clients to do temperature. Okay. We just felt like if they ring and say, "Oh, I'm going to call to your site," it was kind of hard to manage. There's no use implementing something you can't manage. So, did he have a thermometer on him? We gave them to our own staff. We didn't give them to all our clients, so we couldn't implement that.
Yeah, and Stephen, as a small business, were you able to avail of any of any of the business supports to be able to introduce any of these new systems?
Yeah, we went for the grant for it from the Enterprise Board, and we got a grant from the Enterprise Board.
Okay.
And that greatly helped.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. That actually kind of did allow us to kind of drive on and get all this in quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
That was actually really, really good help.
Okay. So in terms of opening up the discussion, Mick, if I can bring you back into the room, I know we have one or two questions there. We have a question in there. How do you, and this is directed to Mick in particular, if that's okay, Mick. So so how do you feel with how do you deal, with employees looking for loopholes or taking liberties with the current regulations in place? And do you see your employees taking responsibility for safeguarding others in the business? So big, long question for you there, Mick.
Yeah, there's great peer pressure on people, and we man each of the entrances every beginning of each shift, and we make sure that everybody sanitizes on the way in. But we found if the odd person did get past, a peer will pull them up on it and report it back. So we've had no problems with people keeping to the rules and so on. Maybe in the canteen, just in the queue, making sure that the space is right. One thing we did do as well on the shifts change, we organized that the second shift parks in a different car park and comes in a different door, so that the shifts there was no crowding up like that. And again, that went down very well. I think people feel safe in that. So in answer to the question, I think, no, we've had no discipline problems in people not doing things. There might be the odd person that misses a sanitizing station coming into a bay, but we found that they'll be pulled up by a peer or a supervisor pretty quickly.
Isn't that great to hear that there's that social responsibility?
Yeah.
Definitely taking place. Mick, in terms of a financial question, in terms of the investment you needed to put in for all the perspex, was it a very significant investment you needed to make in terms of costs?
Yeah, we spent close to 100,000 euros, I'd say, in total. The cameras cost us about 30 in that. We spent another 30 or 40 on the perspex, and then other bits and pieces. And obviously the sanitizer supply is an ongoing expense. But maybe about 100,000 to get the place totally safe, ignoring the labor, because that was another interesting thing, that we shut down for 4 weeks, including a week's holidays that we took. But we wanted our maintenance people in to make sure to do the changes in that. Now, as I said earlier on, everybody was paid while they were out, but the maintenance people had no problem coming in, and there was no question of, do I get extra pay because I'm in because my mate is not coming in and he's getting paid. Never a question like that, and we didn't have any incentive around that. I think everybody sort of naturally identified with the danger and the risk in this thing. And with all the jobs being lost, I think that was the big incentive for people to say, look, we got paid when we were out. Nobody has lost a job, and we're going back to a job. And I think people feel very motivated and happy to be in that kind of an environment.
Okay. And that's great. And I suppose there's a big dialogue, most especially, and Stephen, I'll come to you on this. There's a big dialogue about finance and the cost of restarting a business. Now, I know, Stephen, you didn't necessarily have to shut down, but I suppose there are small companies and businesses who are on the back foot because they haven't had business for the last number of weeks or months. Was that a concern from you in terms of the financial impact that it would have had relative to Mick's company in order to be able to get all these systems in place?
Because we were working straight through, I would sympathize. Okay, if a company's out for a while and they have no turnover, obviously there is cost to restarting. It wasn't really an issue for us because, as I say, we spiked. We had the turnover. We were able to, invest in. But it just wasn't for us. We didn't have an issue there.
Okay, all right. And Stephen, what are your plans for the future in terms of lean projects and the way you're moving forward? I suppose this week and last week kind of the country is starting to reopen, people are getting back into work, there's a new normality after settling in. What are your plans to maintain those systems and going forward, how you're going to grow the business?
I suppose it's just the lean journey has helped our business so much, right? From the day we started it to now, it's absolute. It's like a different business. Everything flows, everything's good, and so it's to stay with it, you know, keep improving, keep it going, and that's it. Just stay. I don't necessarily have a big plan as such. I just know stick with the lean, and it will sort itself out. That's what I believe. Okay. Stick with the lean program, and everything will sort itself out.
Sure. And you know, you're a great advocate for lean, and obviously that's what we want to hear on a webinar like this. Mick, if I can put the question to you, I suppose in a different context, then I suppose you're a progressive company, you're growing, you have I believe plans for expansion. What is the general thought for the future with yourselves, Mick?
Well, again, just to pick up on the importance of lean, we introduced lean in 1996. The business was just a few years old and it was getting complex, and I wasn't happy the way the factory was flowing. And I discovered Kaizen by accident. And once I heard about it, I fell for it and got trained up in it and introduced it to the factory. And I've no doubt we wouldn't be, this is a fairly big statement, we wouldn't be the business we are today if we hadn't gone to lean and Kaizen methods at that time. We've about 225,000 square meters of operation at the moment, and we're out of space. We're committed to manufacturing. From the beginning, we committed to doing 100% manufacturing in Shannon, and our business is growing. We've just started on an extension to add about another 10,000 square meters to the existing factory. So we're very committed to manufacturing in Shannon, and all the functions are based here. All the main functions like R&D is co-located with it, and that's been an important part of our success as well. But I'd say I'm a big fan of lean. We live with it every day, and it changed our business from 1996.
And you and many others say the exact same, that you know lean has the potential and does change businesses. Can I ask you a little bit more, if you don't mind, about the 10K extension that you're doing? Are you looking just to extend the manufacturing? Are you going to extend employees?
We need the space. There will be probably 100 more jobs will probably follow with it, but that wouldn't be the main reason. We just need the space. Over the last few years, we acquired a few factories that were adjacent to us that had gone out of business, but we ran out of those, so we had no option but to commission an extension. And our existing factory goes right back to 1963. All has been upgraded as we went. But this is going to give us a totally new facade to the factory, consistent with the brand, because we're the leading brand in our particular area in Europe, and so we're very confident about the future. Right now, as I said earlier on, our sales are pretty rock bottom, but we believe they're not gone away, and we will be back, and we're able to take that hit again. I suppose a lot of other companies might be able to take that hit, but we are, and we're building stock right now to take the sales in the last two quarters.
Can you remind me, because you said it at the beginning, but I actually just didn't write it down, so my apologies. How many markets, or what are the markets that you service?
Well, we export into about 30 different markets, but the main ones are UK, Germany, France, and USA.
Okay.
Australia is another one of them, and Ireland is a significant market. UK is our biggest market, and that's been the biggest lockdown. And that's been the biggest hit to our sales. But again, because we have a huge market share there, we're not afraid that it won't be back. and we're lucky enough that we have the financial reserves to be able to take the approach we are at the moment of building stock and waiting for the market to come back.
And how do you build that in, if you don't mind me asking you, how do you build the uncertainty of the UK lockdown into a business plan or into a continuity plan? Mick?
You just have to take a chance on it. You know, your best judgment. You talk to everybody in the market. You know, we've a country manager in the UK. He has staff of about 70. A lot of them are sales guys going around to the social landlords, and they're bouncing off of their customers. You know, will the expenditure be cut back? And one area I think the governments in the recovery won't be keeping back will be in social housing and anything to do with fire protection is an essential conformance measure of a social housing sector. So housing associations or councils, we believe, won't be stinging on expenditure. They have to spend in this area, and that's why we're pretty confident. But you know, if there's another outbreak in the UK and there has to be more shutdowns, I mean, we really don't know, I suppose, any of us, what's ahead for us in the next year or maybe 2 years. But we just got to get on with it and take the business risk that we can. The stock that we build, if it became too much and our sales didn't adapt it for the year, we're lucky enough they're not perishable items. It can go into next year. Yeah. So it's just one of these business risks that you take. If we didn't take the decision to come back to 100% production, then we could have been caught very badly in the last quarter when we reckoned that the market will be booming, and we didn't want to give up any market share to anybody else. So.
Sure. Mick, I'm going to ask you a question that I don't even know what this means, so I show my naivety for your sector. But the question there is: reduced global demand encouraging you to look to more blue ocean opportunities? I don't know what blue ocean opportunities, but I'm sure you can probably educate me.
Or blue sky, whatever. No, we've been making smoke alarms in this site since 1974, which is amazing that a product category could be that long. And we've stuck very much to the knitting, and that when I did the management buyout, I based it on the fact that the smoke alarm, at that time there was no regulation in Europe, there was no smoke alarms in Ireland or anything like that. It was purely into North America. But I believe that Europe would begin to regulate for fire alarms and carbon monoxide. So that was a bit of a vision or a bit of a gamble. And but since then, the products have obviously evolved and so on. But we've maintained we've stayed with smoke alarm and carbon monoxide, and we haven't drifted into any other particular areas. But our product offering has got more complex. Everything is interconnected. We're now part of the connected home, in that our smoke and carbon monoxide are sensors in the home, and the social landlords have a duty of care to their tenants, so they want information coming from the home as to whether it's safe or not. And our alarms are very much part of that. So, our technology has evolved, and we believe we can grow within the sector we're in. And back to the question, we're not looking at any blue sky or blue ocean ones that are outside of our particular area. We're growing within it, and part of our success has been our focus and our speciality in that area.
And like you said earlier on, because R&D is a big part of what you do as well, isn't it?
Yeah. R&D is essential. You need a stream of innovative products coming along the whole time to reinvent yourself. And like in this year, like 50% of our turnover will probably be in products that we designed and developed in the last 3 years. So that shows you the importance of evolving the product range right through. And again, the strategy that R&D is co-located with the factory facilitates that, and that other businesses that might have R&D in North America, that might have manufacturing in Ireland, we're all on the same site, so people are bumping into each other, and we got marketing on the same side as well. So the integrated approach has worked well for us, and we keep things fairly simple. We haven't, because we're all on the one site, we haven't got a very complex management structure. We keep it very lean in that as well, and that's been our competitive strength vis-a-vis foreign multinationals. I suppose we look upon ourselves now as an Irish multinational, but other businesses have been taken over by conglomerates, and their business gets lost within a conglomerate, whereas we've kept our independence and we're very focused on our particular area. That's our competitive strength. As long as we keep the quality and the service right and keep the innovative products coming through R&D.
Mick, can I ask you, and we'll draw to a close because we're coming up on 21 minutes past 7 here, and can I ask you in terms of your advice, regardless of whether it's a large company or a small company, but there are companies only just starting to reopen now. You've been in somewhat of a different position, but the purpose of tonight is to learn from what the two of you as great business people have done to leverage the opportunity of opening up more successfully. Is there anything, Mick, you would propose as a top tip, if you like, or something?
I think communication is absolutely key, to keep people informed as to what you're doing. And so we've used SMS, we use newsletters, we use the LCD screens within. The other key thing I would say is that the management team, the full management team, has to be committed to this thing and work together as a team. Like from the beginning, we did that, and we met every day from the time we shut down on the 30th of March. And we set up a COVID WhatsApp, and we kept in contact with each other on that. So communication and management commitment to the thing, I think, is essential. And then in the forefront of our minds the whole time was our workforce. You know, that was the number one, that we wanted to have a workplace that was absolutely safe. And that was our number one driver right through that time. And as I said, we met every day, and we'd ask ourselves the question in a Kaizen kind of a lean kind of a way, what can we do better in a continuous kind of improvement? So they'd be my big ones, the communication, and get the full management team and behind the whole effort.
That's really super. Thank you so much, Stephen. Can I ask you to close for us? And well, in terms and in a very different context, what's been lovely about tonight is that we've been able to see how businesses have been able to utilize the resources they have available to them, whether that be in-house or through external contractors, to be able to restart businesses in a very positive and proactive way. Stephen, what would be your top tip, I suppose, or something you would advocate for from a small business perspective?
If you're, for the COVID, what you have to implement, make sure it's easy. The staff are under a little bit of stress coming back as it is. It's all new to them if they've been off. So they've kind of been locked away from it all, and they're coming back into work. So if you're bringing in new systems and procedure, I just think, like, keep them easy, you know. And I think as well, if you can, if you're introducing new stuff, incentivize, because it stops it falling apart anyway. You're asking people to do things they didn't have to do before, and that's what we're doing. Like, and also we have a whiteboard meeting every morning, and I think, like, we're usually very, very fast moving from the first thing in the morning to the evening. It's very fast moving. We've consciously slowed it down a little bit and just give people a little chance to get used to all this again. You can't really expect the same kind of production rate as such. You have to give it a chance. You have to be patient. If you come to site or whatever is in your own business, and maybe production hasn't been what you'd be used to, I think you have to take a step back, relax, and let people get used to this.
Okay.
You like be prepared for a dip in production and accept it.
Yeah, and I suppose being conscious of that people are coming from a new space now, you know, that there's been a lot of fear around COVID, either personally or even from an economic perspective. So people are afraid of losing their jobs, they're afraid of losing their wage, not being able to provide for families. So it's a very real fear. So what you're advocating is that us as employers, or we as employers, need to be cognizant of that. Is that right?
Yes, like understand that your staff are coming back into a new environment. And some people are quite nervous about this whole, you know, this whole new situation. Nervous about jobs. Maybe their, you know, wife or husband has lost their job in during this, you know. And I think it's just to be compassionate. And we have a whiteboard meeting every morning now. It is slowed down a bit, where we're just giving people a chance, and it's a conscious thing we're doing. And I think it's important to be compassionate to your workers now. Don't be, just because you're back, drive on. I think you have to give them that little bit of a chance to get used to the new environment. And yeah, that's it. Just be compassionate to your workers now, because you don't know what's going on at home either. You know, you don't know what's happened as the wife lost the job and stuff like that. So
100%. Can I thank you both so much for your time here this evening. I know you are both extremely busy and very productive business people, and we're incredibly grateful for your insight and equally your time. And two incredible, great advocates for lean and the transformational change that can happen as a result of lean. So for anybody who's on tonight for the first time, we're part of Lean Business Ireland, and you can go to leanbusinessireland.ie and join by clicking on the top right hand of the website. It says join now, and you can get an email from across the country in terms of events that are happening in the various regions across the country. So that's where we are. I want to thank you all for your time, and wish you all to stay safe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Right.